Hi, this is Allison, and today my mother is going to show you this purse she made. She made it for me for my birthday, and she's going to tell you about some of the things she learned while she was making it.
Thank you for joining me today. This is Betty with Scraps and a Thimble. I'd like to talk with you today a little bit about using sewing to help create memories for your loved ones. When my children were little, I would sew clothes for them. I would sew toys for them, maybe blankets and doll clothes. So sewing was a big part of my life. They also took sewing in 4-H and made it a bit of a part in their lives, and they're coming back to that a little bit. So it's coming back to me in the way of gifts. This is a bag that my oldest daughter, who you saw earlier, made for me, and it's with some fabric that she purchased when she lived in Hawaii. It's just wonderful. It was meant as a scrapbooking bag, but I'm using it as a quilting bag. This is a quilting project, Snowman Collector, that I'm getting ready to start on. So it's a wonderful thing, and it's a great gift. I love it. It took her time and thought and creativity, so that's what I like about that. Well, Allison was with me when we went on a little girls' day out trip to some quilt shops. I live in the southwest mountains of Colorado, so to get to a quilt shop is at least a 60-mile drive and sometimes a 120-mile drive, and she was with me on a trip like that. We went to a store in Aztec, New Mexico called Quilted Yaya, and it's a delightful small business, and like many quilt shops, individually owned. It's in a house at the edge of a residential section. Well, one of the things that Allison really liked was this purse pattern. And she was very interested in this quilted purse here. She also found some fabric that she really liked, and it happened to have quite a variety of fabrics in there. So I went ahead and bought the pattern, and I'm glad I did, because when I went back to buy the fabric, there were no more patterns. So when I went back to buy the fabric, I didn't want to take this bulky pattern, so I just took the cover and the materials list. Well, that wasn't necessarily a good idea. As I went to look at the sizes of the amounts of the fabrics that I needed, I noticed that there were materials for the large quilted version and the small jelly roll version, but not the small quilted version or the large jelly roll version. So my quandary was, do I get the fabric needed for this, or do I get extra for the large version? And it would have been great to have the rest of the pattern with me. Oh well. So what I did was, these are the fabrics that Allison liked, and there just happened to be 9 fabrics in this set. This called for using a jelly roll version. Well, those pieces are only 22 inches long, so I'm buying an 1/8 of a yard of fabric that is 42 inches long. So I knew I had a lot of extra room there. I had a good 20 inches there, and I could continue to piece for the band and for the handle, the strap. So that's what I did, and I thought, well, if she wants the large, I'll just come back and get a little bit more. But I really thought I would have enough, and as it turns out, I would have been able to fashion that purse out of what I had purchased. To go with this, I decided I wasn't going to get one of these pieces to use for the lining. I wanted something to give it a little bit of a fresh burst of color. So what I chose was this dotted green that picked up on little bits of the green kind of sprinkled through the fabric, and for that lining it ended up being perfect. It is down in the bag. Both sides of the band are the pieced fabric, so this doesn't show unless you're opening the purse, and then it's just a delightful surprise. Some of the other things that we needed are fusible fleece for interfacing. So this is what I got. This is a Pellon fabric product, and it has a rough side in here. This is the side where the fusing agent has been sprayed, and that is applied to the fabric with a damp cloth and a hot iron for a good firm holding fusion. I was not happy with this product because I did not feel that the fuse held. If I just moved the fabric a little bit, it broke loose, and I wasn't fascinated with how it worked out, that's for sure. But I've got a lot of it, and I'm going to use it because my great-grandmother said to be frugal. All right, the other product that we need is Timtex. The piece of Timtex that they had in a package at the fabric shop was 12 by 15 inches. Well, none of that equals a half yard of dimension in either way, and I didn't know exactly what I was using it for, or how much I needed, if I was using triple or whatever. So I got a package of another product called Craftex. It's machine wash and dry, and it's 20 by 36 inches. So I knew I had it covered. And what you do with that is you cut 2 pieces and you put them on top of each other, and you insert that in a sleeve and put that down in the bottom of the purse, and it really holds its shape very nicely. I was very pleased with how the purse stood when you put it on the table and just had it sitting there. You will also need cording for the inside of the handle, and you need drapery grommets. So you need 8 of those. They come 8 in a package, and I thought, oh, I only need 6. No, you need 8. And they come in different colors. You can get them at Joann Fabrics. I got my grommets at the quilt shop there. But they're plastic, and they are quite easy to use. When I went to sew this together, I did not, I'm not meaning for anything to be a criticism of the pattern, because it really is a great pattern. I just had a couple of little challenges with it. When you open this out, if you open it out flat, instead of using it like a little pamphlet, open it out flat. This is page 1. Open it like a book. This is page 2. This is page 3. And then this is page 4. So if you do that, then you're going to follow along just fine. I was thrilled to see that the small jelly roll version, which is the version that she chose, was all on the front and back of one page, so I could just set the other page to the side. So as I went through, I was, looking at how I needed to cut my fabric, and I came down to here, and it said 1 yard Pellon fleece for interfacing, and I thought, oh, I didn't get Pellon fleece. I got fusible. What am I supposed to do? Well, maybe there was a misprint somewhere, but anyway, I somewhat followed the directions. The directions ended up saying to put both layers of fleece against your exterior purse fabric. I didn't do that. I ironed it to the lining and to the quilted the strips that were forming a quilt. And that, I think it actually worked better to do that. Then it says to use Timtex over here, but over here it says to use Peltex. And I thought, well, maybe as long as it ends with TEX will be okay. And we were. If you follow along through through the instructions for this project, I think you will be able to work through it very well. I am not a follow along person. I like to jump into something and think about it later. So I get myself in a few messes, but the instructions really are pretty good. One of the things that is important though, because you're dealing with a piece of fabric that has lots of pieces of fabric, and try as you may, you get them sewn on the grain, there's still some give and take, and so things can get a little bit out of kilter. You need to square those pieces up every so often. Another problem that I had was I had this great idea. I thought, oh, this is going to be thrown in the back seat of the car and that sort of thing. So I wanted a strong seam, and I thought putting it through my serger would accomplish that. But as you can see, when there's any bit of tension here, you can see here there are threads that are showing. Here there's a lot of threads showing. That is because the tension on my serger was not set properly. You can see the actual seam part is running down the center, and there's still threads going over this way for this part of the stitch. So it wasn't set properly. Even if it had been set properly, that's a lot of bulk in there. So if I was going to do it again, I would not use the serger. I would just use a straight stitch on my sewing machine. So that would help with that, and it would cut down on some of this bulk, which makes it harder to press. I do recommend using a high quality fabric. This cotton fabric is from a quilt shop, is wonderful. It is more expensive. I know that because I paid for it, but the fabric itself is so much nicer to work with, and it has body that the cheaper fabric does not have. It has a higher thread count. It presses nicer. It just holds up. The colors stay truer, and it's really a good thing to do. Your local shops are a good place to shop for this. If you're making something that you want to be an heirloom piece, which is something of what I wanted with this purse. I wanted her to have it for a long time and to think of me every time she carried it. Not that I'm self-centered, but I do like her to think of me, as well as all of my other daughters. But if you want something to last, use quality fabric and quality threads. If it's something that, if you're making a little mat for the dog to sleep on that you don't really care about too much, then find the discount store fabric may work for that. Sometimes you can get some really surprisingly good fabrics at the discount stores, but do spend some money at the local businesses. This fabric is so nice. It's got a great feel, a great body to it, so it's definitely worth it. So as you work your way through the instructions, you'll come down to the time to put the grommets on. So here we have the grommets, and you can see here's this band. The band is it's got a lining, and of course I needed to make that of my pieced fabric also. So there's a lot of seams in there and a lot of thickness. Well, the instructions say to come here and stitch in the ditch and tack that back lining down so that when you come in and put the grommets, everything is stabilized and it's not going to shift on you. Because I was using the dotted green fabric for the lining, there was no way on this earth that I was going to be able to get that stitching in the ditch to not show on the lining. I tried it twice and I took it out both times because it showed, but I left it in until I put the grommets in. Now, one thing I did not do is the instructions say, please be sure to test inserting grommets with your fabric and fleece layers. You may have to trim the fleece for the grommet to snap together. Yes, you need to trim the fleece. Unless it's just extremely thin, you need to trim the fleece. So what I did was on the first, my test hole was on the band. What I ended up doing was I needed to cut the hole a little smaller. They give you a template and you draw a circle. I cut it a little bit smaller because other parts of the instructions are to stitch around the hole to reinforce it. I was not going to mess with that. So I cut the hole a little bit smaller. I did have to separate the layers a little bit and go in and cut the fleece on the inside around that hole, and then the grommets would snap. They're just plastic, they snap together. It's the most satisfying sound to hear those snap together and to know that you've got all of the pieces in there. If you end up not getting all of the edges in there, it has a certain place where you can pry that apart and put it back together. They really make a great look for this purse. The last part is putting together the handle, and it does have some good instructions with that and using some cording in there. I didn't think I would like the cording, but it does hold it really well and gives it some strength and some body. You'll wave the handle through and then you'll come and put it together and join it. It was a delightful project. I really enjoyed it. My daughter loves the purse and is going to carry it a lot. So I think it's a great way to share memories and have something tangible, an expression of your love that also involves taking your time. I'm interested in hearing how you use sewing to help create memories for your loved ones. So if you'd leave your ideas down below, I would be thrilled to hear them.